This video shows how to increase security for SAP users in finance. Most SAP installations use only usernames and passwords to secure the logon. Once logged on, no further security checks are done, and there's no identity management function. This leaves your finance functions and regulatory compliance in a vulnerable position. If you're relying on procedures and segregation of duties, you basically have an honor system. To improve on that, your procedures have to be backed up with security checkpoints where SAP challenges users to prove who they are. One way is to create security checkpoints at granular levels, which means deeper in the SAP system. A second way is to increase the sophistication with which you authenticate at those checkpoints. You can only do this by moving beyond passwords to using smart cards or ideally fingerprint scans. This graph shows how granularity can progress beyond the simple logon to transactions, info types, fields, buttons, and so on. It also shows the progression from passwords to smart cards and fingerprint scans. Combining these two variables on a user-by-user basis will maximize your security. Most SAP installations are as shown in the bottom left quadrant of the graph, using only logons and passwords. Here's a graphical view of what we mean by more granular checkpoints in the SAP system. In this diagram, we've called out transaction type ME21N, which is where purchase orders are created. To maximize security, you would set up checkpoints by employee at that level of detail and secure them with either smart card or fingerprint authentication. Each checkpoint would then also automatically generate a robust audit trail. The most sophisticated protection uses biometrics, a category of security known as who you are. The best known and most convenient technique is fingerprint scanning. These scans are transformed into encrypted digital templates that uniquely identify a user in a way that only SAP will understand. Each template is unique to each person and can't be borrowed, as opposed to a theoretical user profile that can be used by other people. There are many types of scanning devices that can uniquely identify a user. You could use a USB mouse with a sensor, or many laptops now have swipe sensors built in. Keyboards are available that offer fingerprint scanning, smart card readers, or both. Some of these comply with military standards. These devices are modest in cost and easily installed. By implementing these security improvements, your risk goes down dramatically in all the areas listed, especially the risk of insider fraud, which is the greatest danger to most organizations. You can also shut out former employees, consultants, or auditors who might have still had system access. When you identify users on the basis of who they are at a detailed level, you remove all doubt as to who is actually responsible for a given activity in your SAP system, because you have an indisputable audit trail that leads back to that user. Let's take a look at a few examples of screens an end user might see. In this case, the user is logging onto SAP. In addition to the password, the fingerprint scan message box pops up. The user places the appropriate finger on their scanning device to clear the message box. The whole thing takes just a few seconds. By the way, password sharing just became impossible. In this example, the user works in purchasing and is creating a purchase order in ME21N. Since purchasing is defined as a critical function, the BioLog message box pops up and requires a fingerprint scan. After authenticating, the prompt disappears and the user continues working. This example shows how you can enforce meaningful segregation of duties. Please note this could have been any other financial transaction type, not just purchasing. In this case, a maximum financial limit has been set on transactions for a given user. This could mean a wire transfer, a GL transaction, a check, or any other financial activity, and every user could have a different profile. If the transaction value exceeds the threshold that was set, the user is challenged to re-authenticate, and there's no way for the user to bypass the authentication. In this example, the balance sheet can only be displayed if 2 authorized users have authenticated. This gives you a system of checks and balances and a very high degree of control over critical functions like viewing summary financial data or executing major financial transactions. Some SAP users prefer smart cards to identify users. The card has to remain in the reader or else the user will not be able to perform restricted functions in SAP. If the card is in the reader, there will be no interruption when the user comes up to a security checkpoint. Note that you can also use two-factor authentication, which means a combination of smart card and fingerprint scan, for the ultimate in security. There are many types of powerful financial functions within SAP that should only be available to selected power users. By securing these functions with a sophisticated authentication process, you ensure that these functions cannot be misused. Customer data is another critical item that needs to be secured. This recent news item involved multiple data breaches and resulted in the loss of personal information about millions of customers. In this example, after selecting a list of customers, we can choose to export the information to a file outside the SAP system. By choosing an export file path outside of SAP, we have transferred customer data to an unsecured desktop PC. This is a classic opportunity for a security checkpoint. This type of activity should be restricted as much as possible and should be limited to users who have passed biometric authentication. In this screen, we see customers' banking details and credit card numbers. This is another opportunity for strong security checkpoints to be established to challenge anyone working with this sensitive data. Here are more examples of actions that can be controlled using BioLock software. Maybe you want to prevent someone from printing a list of receivables, or you want to prevent them from making a budget adjustment or a journal entry. In the screen example, certain fields are masked, meaning the data is made invisible or simply doesn't populate, so that an unauthorized user can't view it. For example, executive bonuses. This is an example of the automatically generated audit file. Note the distinction between the SAP user column and the BioLock user column. This file identifies suspect events such as failed logon attempts or attempts at unauthorized actions. Viewing of financial data or lack thereof would provide a strong Sarbanes-Oxley audit trail. And any attempt to share passwords, as in this example, will be prevented. Various organizations have used BioLock in different ways to increase security. A manufacturer secured financial transactions with its banking partners. A pharmaceutical company's senior management prevented unauthorized use of funds in purchasing. A large bank mitigated internal fraud risk by the use of data masking and financial controls. A school board eliminated payroll and expense account fraud after years of abuse. And a nuclear power plant protects and controls mission-critical workflow components. Find out how you can implement bulletproof SAP security for finance. Call 1-877-BioLock or send an email to info